15 years ago, my life was really, really different than it is right now. I was just graduating college. I went to school to become a science teacher, and I student taught.
You guys are going to hear his bio in the intro. You would not have guessed.
Never in a million years.
Thought you were going to say.
Yeah. So I went to school to be a science teacher. I student taught, and I hated it. And I said, I cannot do this with the rest of my life, right? And God bless teachers out there. They get paid nowhere near enough. They put up with a lot of garbage, right? Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I can't do this. So I was a musician. I loved music. I put myself through school playing music. I played in a punk rock band and taught music lessons. I had a music instruction company. And so I thought, well, I'm just gonna be a musician. So I ended up getting hired in at a local church to run a music program. It's like a non-denominational, pretty big church. And so it was like running rock bands. So I ran 4 bands and did 5 services a week, and I loved it. And then I taught music lessons, played in the punk rock band on the side, and that was sort of my life, right? It was amazing. If any of you want to do a little Googling, okay, if you want to have some fun today after we're done, just Google some of my older pictures. I have black spiked mohawk, big old gauged earrings. I mean, it's amazing, right?
That's incredible.
Amazing. The glow up is real, people. The glow up is real.
Yes.
And so I got hired in at this church. I was newly married. We were like 6 months married, and we both had a heart for the ministry. We had a heart for the church, and so I started working at that church. My wife actually came over and started working at the church as well. They brought her out of her job to help run the ministry. And it was something we both felt really like we were supposed to do. We weren't really sure why, but we thought we should go there. And so we sort of had a number that we needed to be at to make life work, right? And when you work for a church, it's always a little gray, like the area between volunteering and serving and work and all of that. And so we sort of had this number we needed to be at. The church was in the middle of a building project. And so they said, we really want you guys here, and we can pay you X. And X is about 30% below where we needed to be. And so we prayed about it. We thought, well, we really feel like we're supposed to be here. Let's go ahead and do it. And I'll just keep some of my other side jobs. So I kept the music lessons. I kept the band. And I started working at the church. They said, in a year, we'll be through the building project. We're going to get you here. We just need you to come, get started, and we'll make things work. And so we jumped in both feet. I'm not sort of like ultra addictive personality, right? Like anything I do, I'm going to do 10X, like over the top, right? It's why, alcohol and I don't mix. It's why, a great number of other things and I don't mix, but it's sort of a helpful thing. And man, our first anniversary, Tamra, we spent as a pirate and a princess in a kids' vacation Bible school play. Like that's how committed. I was the worship director and I'm a pirate in the vacation Bible school play. Like that's how in we were. And about 6 months in, my boss, his name was Stephen, called me into his office. His name was Stephen King, ironically, not the horror author.
Not the author. Okay,
but people always find that funny. And he called me into his office, and I thought for sure he'd seen all of the extra time I've been putting in, all the different areas we were involved in that were sort of over and above my job description. I was positive that he was going to be giving me that raise early, right? And so I walked by Jess, and I'm like giving her the thumbs up. I'm like, I'm getting a raise early. It's going to be amazing. We're going to Applebee's tonight. That was one of those
the 2-for-1 special.
Exactly. 2 for 1, baby. Right. I'm going high class, fancy like, right. Okay. And so I sit down in his office, and I'm sure that a lot of the people watching this can empathize with this experience. But I walked in, and I don't know if you've ever walked into a room where something is not right, but you can feel the energy. It was like, it just zapped me. And I'm like, I don't know what's about to go on, but I don't think it's what I'm expecting. And he sat me down. He said, Ian, I'm really sorry to tell you this. The church has actually gotten behind on their bond payments. Effective immediately, we're cutting everybody's pay by 10%. We're very sorry. We're not sure if and when we're going to be able to make that up to you. But what I will do is I will try to get you some time off so you can make that money elsewhere. And I'm like, well, I'm not really looking to make money elsewhere. I'm already working 2 other jobs. And we are on thin ice right now, man. It's not good. So I walked out of there, and I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I was doing all the right things. I was going above and beyond. I was really just serving to the utmost capacity we had, and life was going in the wrong direction. And I'm sure there are people on here watching that have been there, maybe are there right now. It's like no matter what you're doing the right things, the wrong things are happening. And it was a tough moment. It felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, sort of, you know what I mean? And we sat down, we did our budget, and we were $250 a month in the negative, even with my other jobs. And so my radar went up for what I could be doing to make an extra $250 a month. And so what I decided on doing was I was going to be a night manager at Rite Aid and, the convenience store. And I was going to work 3 midnights a week for $14.85 an hour. And that was going to be my solution. And here I am, I'm 6 months married. My wife's love language is quality time. We see each other going to work and coming home from work. That's about it. After I'm home, I'm doing 3 other jobs. And it was not good. I was unhappy. I was gaining weight from all the stress. And I just sort of felt like a loser, honestly. I'm like, I'm 22 years old at the point, and this is not what I imagined my life to be like. And so fast forward about 30 days, my boss calls me and he says, "Hey, are you still trying to make some extra money?" I said, "Well, Stephen, with all due respect, since you are my boss, you see what you pay me, right? Okay."
Right.
That is the dumbest question anybody has ever asked me. Of course, I'm looking to make
Get real. Yeah.
Yeah. And he says this. He says, "There's this guy that goes to the church. He does this thing, and you could do it with him part-time, and you'd probably be good at it. You should go talk to him." And I'm like, well, I couldn't make any less than I'm making here. So sure, right? I had no idea what he was doing. And so I called this guy. I'm like, "Hey, my boss said you might have an opportunity for me." He says, "Sure, come over." I'm like, "When?" He's like, "How about an hour?" It's a Wednesday afternoon in August of 2006. And I pulled up to his house in Tamra. It was this castle looking home on a lake, right? And I didn't know any wealthy people. My parents are super blue collar. They still live in the same 900 square foot house I grew up in, right? Like wonderful people, amazing role models, but just didn't really have that piece of life dialed in.
Right.
And so I pulled up to this guy's house, and no joke, I'm like, if this guy's not selling drugs to kids, I'm in. Like I almost didn't care because I understood the principle that this man knew something about generating wealth that I didn't know. And I thought I'd be foolish to not at least learn from him, no matter what he was doing. And so I decided I was going to get involved working with him part-time. And 8 months later, I was making 6 figures part-time. And I'm like, this is crazy, right? I was making 30 grand a year at my job at the church before the pay cut. And I'm like, you know what? I need to see what this can be. And so I made one of the hardest decisions in my life, which was to leave the full-time ministry. It was something I thought that I would do forever. It wasn't really a job. I felt like it was a calling. It was something I absolutely loved. I still love to this day. And I just really felt God telling me to move. And so we made the decision that I was going to leave the full-time ministry to pursue that business on a full-time basis. And I was excited. I was scared. I was nervous. And the day I went to resign, man, it was one of the toughest days of my life. I just had so many people that were my friends, that loved me, that wanted the best for me, that were so discouraging. And they were telling me some of the craziest things. You don't love God anymore. All you care about is money. You'll be back. You're making a mistake. All this. But Tamra, I felt like deep down on the inside in this little, still, small voice, I felt this whisper like, Ian, one day you're going to give away more every year than you make every year right now. Trust me, take this step. I got you. And so I walked out of my last day full-time. I actually stayed on board with the ministry for 2 years, full-time as a layperson. I didn't take a salary. And I started that business. A few years later, we were making $1 million a year from that business, and bought other stuff, run multiple companies now, making many multiples of that. It's just been we've traveled to the greatest places in the world. We homeschool our 3 kids. We're old school. We're the OG of homeschool. I tell people we were homeschooling before COVID, right?
Before it was cool and trendy.
Before it was cool, right? We've been having meltdowns at home for 8 years. Right?
I have no sympathy for you.
Yeah. Wow. So, but we've been homeschooling. We homeschooled because we love to travel, and we had the kids in a private Christian school, and we actually got in trouble because they missed 41 school days, right? The first year they're like, this is not going to fly for us. And one of my mentors, he told me, Ian, never let schooling get in the way of a good education. And so we took him up on that. We pulled him out. We've been traveling the world. I mean, it's just been absolutely amazing being there for all of their moments and all their growth and watching them see the great places of the world and meet the most incredible people in the world and be immersed in all these cultures and surrounded by people who are excited about their dreams and their goals, who are impacting the world, who are building the kingdom. And it's just been really amazing. Like I said earlier, I always tell people, I feel like I've lived 10 lifetimes in 15 years. And I'm excited because we're really just getting started. And it's been an amazing journey, but much more amazingness to come.